Sometimes we overthink things. We think we need more ingredients, more options, more of everything. And I'm guilty of that. But what we really need is room for peace, peace in our finances, peace in how we care for our health, peace in areas of life that feels heavy. Today, I'm going to keep it simple, a meal under $12, sweet potatoes, cabbage, cube steak with gravy, and seasoning, which I already have. Because this isn't just about food. It's about choices. Choosing simple so life feels lighter, choosing balance instead of pressure. You don't have to change everything today. Start with one decision you can feel good about. Small steps create steady progress, and little by little, you will have breathing room. Now, let's talk about what that actually looks like. Budgeting doesn't have to be complicated. It starts with awareness, knowing what comes in, knowing what goes out, not guessing, not hoping, not avoiding it, just knowing. And I'm going to be honest, we sat down and really looked at our account. We noticed that we had streaming services that were coming out that we were not even using. And while the payments were not huge on its own, it did add up. And the truth is, we were just not paying attention. So when you write down your numbers, something shifts. Even if it's not perfect and even if they're not where you want them to be, you can have that clarity of knowing what is there. And that allows you to adjust your financial situation. So after we canceled those subscriptions, I started looking at another simple place to adjust, and that was groceries. And that made sense for us because groceries are flexible, and there's one of the few areas where small changes can be noticed. Not by cutting out everything, but by us paying attention. So before we went shopping, we looked in our pantry. Before we ordered out, we checked our freezer. And before we assumed that we didn't have anything, we paused and made sure that there was nothing available for us to cook. And most of the time, we noticed that there was something always there. Maybe it wasn't a full meal planned out, but it was enough to build on one. And two or three meals from what we already had made a difference within that week. And shifting a week can shift a month. So that alone created breathing room in our budget. Now, after adjusting our groceries, the next thing we looked at was the larger items because small changes help. And those larger items really weigh on your mind. And that can include your student loan, that can include your rent, that can include your mortgage. I mean, any credit card payments that you may have because those are really priority and it affects your credit. So when those are handled first, something shifts internally. You breathe differently. You're not operating from panic, you're operating from stability. And when you're not in panic mode, your decisions improve. You identify exactly what you need to purchase for that week and that month, and you're not spending on impulse. So that peace doesn't come from having no bills, but it also comes from knowing the important ones are handled. So once the important bills are handled, then you build. And building doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. It can look like putting $5 aside when you get paid. It can look like skipping takeout one night this week. And it also can look like cooking what you already have instead of buying more. It doesn't have to be $100. It just has to be consistent. Moving something to savings first, even if it's small, it can be 50 cents because what you move first is what you keep. And if you have children, let them see it. Say it out loud. We're saving for something. We're cooking at home so we can build something later. Give them a small jar or an envelope. Teach them three simple words: spend, save, give. Even if it's just $1, saving isn't about restriction. It's about preparation. It's about teaching yourself and your family that small choices matter. Little by little builds confidence. Little by little builds stability. And little by little builds peace as well as breathing room. The first thing we started doing is having family financial meetings. Once a month, we sit together and we look at our account on the screen. every transaction from groceries to subscriptions, just to understand what we actually spent. And then our kids can see the cost. So, all those small purchases that we've done over the month, it adds up. And as we're walking through the account, we identify, why did we spend money here? Why did we not spend money there? And how can we handle our finances differently next month? And it's not a long process, but it is consistent because we want our children to grow up knowing how money works and not to be surprised by it and not to be afraid with it. So we want them to understand it. So in your case, what could shift in your family if everyone understood where your money goes? And when your family understands how money works, this is where breathing room really begins. Peace in your finances doesn't come from having everything, it comes from managing what you already have. Savings are leftovers, just something set aside on purpose. Even a small rainy day fund changes how you move. You think differently. When you know something is there, you make better decisions. If things feel tight right now, don't try to fix everything at once. Start small. Pick one area. It could be groceries, it could be a streaming services, it could be eating out. Adjust one thing, then let that one change build financial confidence. Financial peace is built slowly, decision by decision, habit by habit, meal by meal. How could one change this month create more room for peace in your finances?